Hi everyone, Vale here and welcome back to another counterplay video. This time we're going to be talking about Vex. So first off, what does the champion actually do and where does she play? Well, Vex is an aggressive mage champion in the mid lane who can deal a depressingly large amount of burst damage. Vex is able to completely remove a squishy champion from the fight or deal a massive amount of AoE damage to clumped up teams. She also has great pick and roam potential with the extremely long range on her ultimate. So what are Vex's strengths and weaknesses? Well, Vex has access to some pretty nasty poke damage, especially when her passive is up, and even more so after her enemy champions use a dash or a blink. Vex's W deals a sizable amount of AoE damage around her whilst also providing a shield that can reduce incoming poke. This gives Vex a ton of survivability against all-ins, especially if her fear is ready too. Vex is also able to get the jump on targets from a very long distance with her ultimate. Comboing it and other abilities allows her to pull off some disgusting burst damage from all-ins, with the added bonus on it being a reset on takedown. Vex does really struggle against long range champions though. It prevents her from effectively harassing them down and just doing her job altogether. As Vex is a mage, she's extremely fragile, and even with the shield on her W, she's still susceptible to being all-in and removed from the game in just a few seconds. And finally, while Vex has the tools to punish enemy champions with mobility, she doesn't actually have any mobility herself, outside of her ultimate, so she can easily be caught down and bursted out, especially if her flash is on cooldown. So now we're going to take a look into Vex's kit to get a better understanding of how she actually plays. So Vex's passive has two parts to it. The first, Doom, empowers her next ability to fear and slow any targets hit for a short duration. The second part is called Gloom. This allows her next basic attack Q or W against an enemy who recently used a dash or was hit by her E to deal bonus damage and refund a portion of the static cooldown. Due to the many ways that Vex can proc the Doom fear, it can be somewhat difficult to predict it. However, it should be noted that regardless of whether Vex hits or misses this ability, Doom will always go on cooldown. For Gloom, try and restrict your blinks and dashes to escape or for all-ins, as continued use of it will allow Vex to stack up bonus damage against you for free. Vex's Q is a projectile that deals magic damage to anything that it touches. While initially wide and slow, after travelling for a short time the projectile shortens in width, but increases in travel speed dramatically. It's best to stay at max range to dodge this ability, but just remember that it does get faster towards the end of the projectile. Vex also maxes this ability first, so keep your eyes open for this one. Vex's W deals AoE magic damage around her whilst also providing a shield to herself and of course proccing her fear. You want to be careful getting too close to her when this ability is up, as it will grant her a shield, fear you, deal damage and allow her to hit the rest of her abilities afterwards. Always bear that in mind when looking to fight this champion, especially close range. Vex's E is a ground targeted AoE ability that slows and inflicts targets struck with her Gloom passive. This is a great way for Vex to apply the fear with her Doom passive, so it's paramount that you avoid this ability. Vex will be able to combo this with her Q to deal a huge amount of poke damage. Keep in mind that the cast time of this ability scales with the distance between Vex and the targeted location, getting shorter the closer that she is to the ability. Vex's ultimate is her main gap closing and assassination ability, which is a bit like a long range Lee Sin Q. The first use is a skill shot that will mark the first champion hit and allow her to activate the second part, which teleports her to her target. Vex is also unstoppable during the travel time, so don't waste your crowd controlling abilities on her during this window. You can still damage her though, so if you have enough burst, you could save you or your teammates' lives. To sum up, you'll need to respect her Q and E skill shots in lane, as these are her main form of harass and poke. Don't forget about her W too, as it will help her win a lot of early trades. You'll want to play around her fear, which you can see underneath her health bar, and don't use too many dashes or blinks, as she's just going to abuse her passive against you. Remember to be cautious of Vex's all-in potential at level 6 and her resets in teamfights too, as if she gets them for free, she can easily 1v5. So what points in the game is Vex at her strongest and when she at her weakest? Well, Vex is best in the mid game with access to a few ranks in her ultimate. She's able to easily roam around the map, ganking from anywhere and picking up a lot of juicy takedown gold. Make sure that you have a lot of deep wards to spot her before she's able to utilise her ult effectively. Vex is at her weakest during the early lane phase with not a lot of ranks in her abilities, and being a mage, she does have quite poor defensive stats. Try to take advantage of this early on and shut her down through ganks or all-ins. So in the early game you want to be at maximum distance away from Vex, taking advantage of the width decrease in her Q, her short range on her W, as well as the increased cast time on her E. Should you have any mobility options such as dashes or blinks, try to make sure that you commit to whatever option you're going for, whether you're escaping or all-inning. Doing it willy-nilly in lane will allow Vex to rack up extra damage on you. Even if you dodge her skill shots, her auto attack will apply the bonus damage. Vex's auto attack from her passive is also not a projectile, so you won't be able to block it with things like Wind Wall. Due to Vex's lack of mobility, look for opportunities to pressure her to burn her flash. Without her flash, she is a sitting duck and is actually pretty easy to kill, especially when her fear is on cooldown too. In the mid game though, if she hasn't been shut down early on, Vex will become a bit of a monster, and she's able to completely remove squishy champions from the game with ease. Respect her damage potential and also look for opportunities to get the jump on her before fights. In mid-game skirmishes, beware of the poke that she can put out. A 1-2 EQ combo can deal a devastating amount of damage to clumped up targets, so spread out to avoid the damage stacking up. You'd also want to keep wards up around the map so she's unable to effectively get a max range ultimate off. The main thing to think about when playing against Vex is denying those resets. If she's able to constantly jump in and burst your team down around her cooldowns, she's playing the game exactly how she wants to. Protect your teammates who she's tagged with her ultimate, or alternatively if you have to, let them die and stall out her ultimate. In the late game, Vex is going to start falling off as more magic resist itemization comes into effect. She can still deal a lot of damage, but you'll have a much easier time surviving and maybe have the chance to retaliate. Similar to the mid game, you'll need to watch for Vex's flanks with her ultimate. Missing her ultimate will mean that she'll have to run closer to be a part of teamfights, and you should be able to force a 4v5 without her. Vex has a great amount of pick potential. Due to her fear, she can pop you in the CC window and remove you from play quickly late game. Be careful face checking contested areas and do not let her catch you out alone. Make sure you're sticking with your team. Now sure, Vex can deal a massive amount of AoE damage, but she puts herself at risk if she just throws herself into you. If you see her coming, stack it with your allies and take her out. Finally, let's take a look at some itemization that's really effective to build against Vex. First off, we've got the most obvious one. Magic resist. Now being a mage champion, Vex can output a lot of magic damage, so building magic resist items will allow you to weather her assault and fight back. You can also go for some anti-burst items. Any way to prevent Vex's burst will give you the chance to turn the odds into your favour and take her out instead. Zhonya's Hourglass or Guardian Angel are also amazing options to take. Zhonya's will allow you to completely negate the incoming burst after being struck by the first part of her ultimate, whilst Guardian Angel will resurrect you after her burst options are all on cooldown. You will also deny her ultimate the chance to get resets. CC reduction is also great to take against Vex. Mercury's Treads or QSS are also perfectly viable options as her fear can be so punishing. Both options also offer more magic resist, which is a win-win. Okay everyone, well that's going to bring us to the end of this Vex counterplay video. We hope you enjoyed it and we hope it really helps you out when playing against Vex in the future. I've been your host Vale here at Mobalytics, and as always, take care.